Welcome back, everyone, to another Hearts of Iron 4 mod spotlight. Now, you may be wondering, what the fuck? Well, I mean, why not? Equestria War. So, I actually already did a mod spotlight for this mod like a while ago. But I suppose it doesn't hurt to talk about it again, especially since, again, that while ago was in 2018, and a lot has been added to this mod, a ridiculous amount, in fact, since then. And plus, again, I like this mod, therefore I talk about it. Now, you might be wondering, why the fuck would you be playing Equestria at War? Now, already, like, Equestria War, what is it? Of course, there's this cartoon called My Little Pony, where there's intelligent ponies walking around doing intelligent pony things. And it's set in Equestria. Now, this is Equestria, but the creators of this mod who decided, well, why not? Let's port everything over to Hearts of Iron 4. Decided to expand upon the world, of course, because, like, as far as I know in the show, there's only really, like, Equestria and, like, a few other things up here. But they decided to add a whole lot of other shit, aka another entire continent, and by the way, they're adding a third one at some point, like an Africa continent. So, like, Jesus Christ. And this is literally an entire continent full of custom-made countries, most of them with their own storylines and, you know, unique populations and political situations. Now, the similarities with the show end at the fact that there's intelligent ponies walking around. And also intelligent ponies that have, like, civilization or whatever. Now, the mod, obviously, taking place in Hearts of Iron 4, takes place in a sort of parallel time in which, you know, this animal insanity, it's the only way I can describe it. It's like these various animal civilizations, this world of animal civilizations, is entering not exactly the 1940s in our timeline. This is where things, I think, get very, very interesting, and Equestria War really starts to acquire a lot of its really pull for me. Because the world, in fact, is actually a little bit more medieval than our timelines as 1930s. I would say that actually the world reminds me a lot of the 1860s. And I'll explain why. It's like the 1860s with some 1930s technology. Why do I say the 1860s? Because you have I'll be talking mostly about the continent on the east, which is Grifonia. Now the western one is basically like Equestria is like the United States. If you go into their focus tree, you can see that. Basically, they're like an industrial powerhouse, you know, they're the biggest country in the world and all that. And they've got nukes. They can have a civil war. You know, they've got Philadelphia. They're Manhattan. They're the United States, okay? Then there's, let's just very, very quickly get this out of the way. There's also the deers up here. There's a bunch of other weird animals like the polar bears, the penguins, the goddamn penguins, the yaks, who are Mongolia somehow. For some reason, it's a Mongolia. Look at that. Now, the Crystal Empire is like basically Equestria Light. Stalingrad is Equestria but Russia, obviously. And the Changeling Lands is Germany. Germany, but also like they're a different race. They're the changelings and not the ponies or whatever. I don't know. I'm not super like knowledgeable on the lore of the western continent. And of course up here they've also got the Nova Grifonia, which is populated by Griffons, who are these these birds. These birds who are mostly the ones who are the masters of the eastern continent, known nicely as Grifonia. This is just a little colony that they have. Now, there's another pony colony down here, the Commonwealth of New Maryland. And you'll find that these, like, different races are sort of interspersed throughout the world. For example, there's just, like, a random, or there's a random pony, you know, civilization on the far eastern side of the continent over here in the River Republic. And also, I believe, up here. And there's also a lot of pony minorities, again, in the northeastern end of the Griffonian continent. But, and of course, there's also the Minotaurs down here, but that's about it. Oh, there's also about a few weird deers on the far eastern end of Griffonia as well. And the zebras in Casa Free State. No, but basically, the eastern continent is mostly dominated by the Griffons, or birds. And this state of their various polities and realms reminds me heavily of the state of, for example, the German Confederation and the German kingdoms in, well, the period between 1830 and 1860. Why? Because you have all these absolute monarchies, or sort of limited constitutional monarchies, all over the place. So you've got the Griffonian Empire, which is, of course, like the Holy Roman Empire / Germany. The Kingdom of Aquilia, which is obviously France. The Kingdom of Lombardy, which is Italy. And these are the three main ones, right? And as you can see, they're on the map, they're represented by tons of different tags that are the puppets, the vassals of the central crown lands. So what this really, really reminds me of is the situation of, for example, you know, the Holy Roman Empire with Austria and all its satellites, or the North German Confederation with Prussia and all its sort of vassals and satellites. You know, France in the Ancien Regime period, where you have a central authority that, you know, gradually sort of withers away as you go to the periphery. And of course also the Italian, you know, the Italian states. With, I guess you could say, Lombardy would be, you know, Piedmont. But yeah, basically you have these semi-feudal states that are, however, industrializing, you know. And so they have a technology that we would associate in our world with, again, the 1920s and the 1930s, so late in the Second Industrial Revolution, but with political structures that are more closely associated with, for example, the First Industrial Revolution and the sort of struggle to establish large centralized states. And in fact, this is also represented when you go ahead and toggle along, for example, your infrastructure. Well, perhaps not so much in Lombardy because it's a little more compact, but there are a lot of areas in the world of, you know, Equestria at war, especially Grifonia, that are severely underdeveloped compared to the centers. And this is represented by the fact that they have basically no infrastructure on the map, no factories. For example, if we go look at what would be a good example? Actually, let's just, what if I use just observe? For example, if we go ahead and look into these mountains over here where there's a bunch of bandits hiding around, there's like no infrastructure anywhere. And what this means in terms of gameplay is that when you're moving around in these areas with large, bulky, heavy, you know, consumption modern armies, and there's like zero infrastructure, they're going to be completely useless because these are wild, sort of feudal, or, you know, either feudal or communal lands where people live in subsistence. You don't have modern roads. They're far away from the capitals. They're far away from development. And so you have this in my opinion, very immersive sort of congestion of more medieval aesthetics. This is very apparent when you look at, for example, events that pop up of medieval aesthetics and political structures and development levels with, again, a tech tree that allows you to get, up all the way up to a kind of atomic bomb, even though, it's kind of weird because it's like, I think it's supposed to be like somewhat magical or whatever. I don't know. Whatever. No, it's definitely thermonuclear. And automatic weapons, heavy artillery, tanks, and all that. So you can have a very, very gigantic transition and span of essentially time periods because of the fact that it's set in this alternate, universe. And that's part of the reason why I don't particularly mind all of the animals. Now, I'll go ahead and say that I'm not the biggest fan of, the whole pony / Griffon / whatever stuff, but I love how they used the setting to bring about, again, this massive contrast within the world, these massive contradictions and divisions within the world. These also, there's also the opportunity to have just different gameplay features that do not diverge very, very heavily from main sort of regular main Hearts of Iron 4 mechanics. This is not a Millennium Dawn or Cold War Iron Current type scenario where you have to create whole new mechanics, but you can do things like having racial technologies that basically draw upon the fact that, again, this is not just a world of humans. In fact, there's no humans. But, you have Griffons with their own societal norms and mores and, their biology, I suppose. And I guess their evolutionary preferences. You have, again, your Griffons. You have your ponies. If you load, that would be great. You have your ponies that are doing other things. You also have the dogs that I'm not sure if they have a racial... By the way, this is going to get demonetized because of the racial stuff. Oh yeah, they have the dogs that, do their own things. Essentially, the dogs are like the dwarves of this world. Or, I don't know why the dogs are living in the mountains and mining shit. This is clearly, like, not 100% done. But, there's, like, one dog tag in the world, so it's, I guess, fine. And, you have magic. Like, you have all these necromancers up here with the Dread League, that later down the line even get, like, through decisions, they get to do spells and magic and shit. Also, the Barad Magocracy down here gets to do magic, essentially because this is a country that's ruled by a, like, kind of wizard council or whatever, the Pentarchy. And, for example, this country, the Barad Magocracy, or this tag, is really, really creative because it plays like a, this is like a very tiny amount of the focus tree, actually. It gets a lot, bigger down the line. It plays like a role-playing game, basically. You have these five secretive, essentially, scholars that can do weird shit, and they're doing their own thing, and they're sort of fighting each other, doing intrigue, trying to kill each other. They have a relationship. I don't remember exactly where you see it. Oh, there we go. They have relationships with each other, and if they get too low, you're going to start to have events popping up about, like, this guy's doing an assassination attempt on the other guy. He's discrediting the other guys in the council. And again, the name of the game with someone like the Barad Magocracy is to take out the other rivals to the, in the Pentarchy and become, the sort of sole ruler of Barad, and then, utilize some kind of arcane shit to try to, basically off-balance the fact that this is a tiny, essentially mountain holdout of a few weird ass like people that other states cannot keep under control. This is one experience, one very extremely different experience from the base game that you can get, but you can also get, for example, the experience of like the Griffonian Empire, which again, it's Germany, so you know you're industrializing, you're centralizing your empire, you're doing your own thing, and you're trying to take over the continent. But it can also be, for example, the Skyfall Trade Federation, which again it's a trade sort of republic, it's kind of like a merchant republic, I suppose, which gets to do all sorts of illicit business, basically, you know, everywhere in the world. I don't remember. Oh, you do not see it because there's, yeah, again, the focus trees in this, well, not again, but like the focus trees in this mod are often massive, and sometimes there's like hidden parts that only, you know, only come up once you've done something. But for example, you get to buy out local gunsmiths. You get to later down the line basically build your own trade empire, really, through the decision system. You get, you know, you get to have influence in other countries. You get to spend your treasury that, you know, the founder really, well, I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly in the lore if he's the founder or not, but, you know, basically the current ruler is stashing away kind of greedily. You get to use it to do, you know, different things depending on which path you're going down. Also, for example, Vedina is another country. If I were to talk about literally everyone, it would be, you know, a little long. But Vedina is another country where basically the game is more like a role-playing game within the strategy game. Because basically it's this like Swedish medieval kingdom that's just kind of doing its own thing, and you know, you've got your Red Wedding. Basically all of the things that you've been doing go up to this moment, and you know, the conclusion is reached, almost like in a visual novel. Then you have, well, I guess then we need to, like, now that I've represented exactly how incredibly diverse this world is, I guess we should really take a look at like the different regions that you've got, and like what I suppose because I'm intending that this is like aimed at like people who do not really know or particularly care about Equestria at War and why they should play it, right? So I'll just show you the most interesting things. Now, first of all, I'm gonna start with the southwest of Grifonia, because this is what the 1.9 update is focused on. Now, I will preface this by saying that the developers were kind enough to grant me an early access copy of the update. However, I was not able to really like record a lot on it because of a million reasons, but I hope that I am going to do it a little bit of justice, because basically this update revamps the southwestern portion of the map, which already used to have 3 very interesting countries, which are New Maryland, which is not touched by the update. But, oh, by the way, in another, like, I guess, spoiler alert, I am gonna spoil a lot of the, like, secret cool things, or at least the ones that I know about. For example, just to show you the weirdness, with New Maryland, there's a path where you can basically create Ingsoc from 1984. Oh my god, Dave Rubin, you know? Yeah, again, the setting allows the modders to do a lot of creative shit. Basically, New Maryland is not touched, but, you know, again, it's this pony settlement in the southern portion of the continent. Aquileia, the Kingdom of Aquileia, and the Kingdom of Wingbardi, or Wingbardi, were already, you know, quite well developed, quite... They had their own focus tree, you know, their own events and all that, but they've been revamped quite significantly, and also the update has added focus trees to two of the actually it's allies, because again Wingbardi is more decentralized, but really it is like the potential vassals of Wingbardi, who are Francistria and Talus. Now Wingbardi represents again Italy, and Francistria and Talus are within the Carfinian Pact, along with Arantiga, which is another tiny little country up here. And basically, it's this power block that's separated from the Empire relatively recently. And Wingbardi itself is the most powerful country over here. In fact, it's like the inheritor of the Carfinian Empire, much like, the Roman Empire in real life, which is where the Carfinian Pact comes from. Carfin is the Rome of, of Wingbardi. And at the beginning of the game, they are having a massive amount of issues with their economic, situation. And also, basically, this leads to a political problem where they have basically, the fascists, Mussolini, or Biccolini, as he's called. Jesus fucking Christ, I want to shoot myself. By the way, if you're Italian, be prepared to cringe a lot when you play this country, because clearly whoever created this country likes the sound of the Italian language. Let's just put it this way. But yeah, basically, you can do your own fascism thing. And basically try to, again, recreate the Carfinian Empire. And at the beginning of the game, the way that fascism happens is that there's the March on Carfin, much like the March on Rome in real life. And the king, the current King Garibaldi Tallonuel III, obviously, Victor Emmanuel III, is attempting either to support Biccolini or, declare martial law and attempt to stop basically the fascist takeover, which leads to either a royalist and, absolutist path, which leads to Wingbardi Rises, or the Chasbekle Pact, which can also happen from fascism, which is basically an alliance with the Aquileia, which is like the France that's up here. Or just, just trying to do your own thing and killing the Griffonian Empire. Or a sort of liberal democratic monarchist path, which is more reminiscent, I suppose, of the Italian kingdom period, the sort of flawed democracy that you had over there. And in fact, they've even got someone called Giovanni de Gasperini, obviously, supposed to be Giovanni de Gasperi. So basically, kind of we would call it today I'd call it a Christian Democrat, but of course it's not Christian, it's Tritheism or whatever the fuck. Whatever is the name of the religion that these people practice, And the third option is rallying the anti-fascists and essentially either going with the communists and doing, just very, very basic communist things with the Workers' Empire, of course. We are the true Griffonian Empire. We are the Workers' Empire. Declare the Workers' Empire decision. This is pretty based. Reminds me of like in some like very, very early Russian communist songs, you hear the word like Tsarstva Truda, which is like the tsardom of labor. I suppose because, it would be like saying realm in English or whatever. But yeah, it just reminds me of that. It's kind of cute. And you can also do democratic, of course. You can do your own democracy. You can be a Republican or a sort of reformist socialism, or a reformist socialist republic, or a liberal republic, either under Guto Golayanni or whatever, or Giacomo Matteotti, who is obviously supposed to be Giacomo Matteotti, famous Italian Socialist Party leader who was murdered by the fascists and all that. And yeah, basically, you know, trying to be the epic Republican revolution. Because again, this world is in some ways modern, you know, as by modern I mean in the 1930s, and in some ways it is in the 1850s and 1860s. So a lot of these absolute monarchies that are, you know, running around still need to be truly demolished. And you know, the good old things like the, you know, the rule of law, you know, equality before the law, freedom of the press, you know, freedom of movement and all that still need to be achieved in a lot of these countries. So yeah, Republican revolutions all the way, I suppose. And you restore the Carthaginian Republic again as to the Senate and the Griffons of Carthage. So I guess, you know, it's kind of a Rome LARP kind of business. Even though it's not Rome, it's Carthage. It's a Carthage LARP. I love my Rome LARP. So yeah, the Republicans can do a bit of a Rome LARP and, you know, sort of trying to rebuild everything. They can also ally up, which is not exclusive, by the way. They can also ally up with the good old Aquileians if the Aquileians have themselves turned into a republic. Because if we go into Aquileia, we know, or we can see, that Aquileia, in fact, it hasn't changed all that much from... like, Wingwardy was expanded massively from the last update. Basically, in the last update, you only really had the... you only really had a smaller fascist tree, a smaller communist tree, and a very, very diminutive sort of... I don't remember if liberal or non-aligned tree. Now, Aquileia was pretty much the same before. You can either go monarchist or Republican. That is the first split. Now, the monarchist path is pretty much... I wouldn't say it's 100% the same because I haven't played it. But it's very similar. And it includes with you basically reintegrating the entirety of the kingdom, trying to expand a little bit, and then moving on Griffonheim, you know, which is the capital of the empire. You'll notice in a lot of countries that basically the end goal is to take down the Griffonian Empire, because the Griffonian Empire is, like, incredibly powerful. And unlike in real life where the Holy Roman Empire, you know, fell a long, long, long time before industrialization and, you know, revolutions and all that. In this timeline, the Griffonian Empire was basically, like, you know, nominally the overlord of all of this for, like, all the way to, like, a few decades before the game start. So that's basically why a lot of these countries are like, holy shit, we need to go to Griffonheim and stop this, because, you know, they're getting, they're afraid to get taken over again. Now, the Republican path is really interesting because, like, whether you're playing, by the way, whether you're playing Republican or monarchist, you have, you play through a civil war, the Second Aquileian Revolution, or, you know, again, it's France. It's the French Revolution. Or I suppose it's the 1848 Revolution. And again, either whether you're on the monarchist side or the Republican side, you need to kill the other guys. And then you have, if you're the Republicans, you have an election that either leads to communism, democracy, fascism, or non-aligned. So that's pretty obvious. And by the way, fascism here is called supremacy, because I suppose it's, you know, racial supremacy of your race or whatever. Spoiler alert, in some countries that is taken very literally. This mod goes over a lot of very, very mature subjects that a normal Hearts of Iron 4, normal Hearts of Iron 4 definitely, because they want to be sold in Germany, but also, like, a lot of Hearts of Iron 4 mods wouldn't go this far. You'll see why. Again, this is another one of the opportunities that is presented by the fact that you're in this fantasy world, is the fact that paradoxically they can capture a lot of more mature themes, like, well, you know, a larger amount of mature themes, like, again, genocide and all that. You'll see why. So basically, yeah, you either do your communism, your democracy, your fascism. Interestingly enough, the most aggressive are the Democrats and the fascists. They are the only ones that get to do the liberation of Lointaneux, the lands of Verenia, House Avian and House Erie. Or you're not aligned, and then ouvrez la porte, I suppose, open the door, you know. Debout le citoyen d'Aculé, que les sangs de tyran impérieux approuvent nos sillons. Of course, you know, kind of a Marseillaise kind of thing. You know, you get to go in and take out this. Now, there's a gigantic amount of other tags in the middle. Some of them don't have a focus tree, like the House Eries or whatever. They have a generic one. Some of them do, like I believe Fizera. Yeah, Fizera is basically like this mafia city. Again, most of these tiny countries over here, I believe Adelard gets to be like a commune. Oh no, okay, no, never mind. I got it wrong. Oh yeah, no, there we go. It's Greifwald with the anarchy. Yeah, they've got their, you know, they're basically got their Machno up here in Greifwald. And these border regions that you can see between essentially Wingbardi, Aquilea, and the Griffonian Empire are also like ethnically very fuzzy, I suppose. So like all these three main powers can claim them and basically fight over them. One cute example that I like is Francistria, which has its own focus tree that was added by the update that is basically about dealing with Wingbardi. Francistria has a couple of problems. It is mainly politically subjugated to Wingbardi, but it's also got a significant minority of Tarinians or whatever, you know, the Republic of Taran, who are ethnically basically a variety of Aquilean. So I guess it's kind of like Savoy in real life that has a French population and used to be part of Italy. So again, these smaller countries are, you know, these smaller tags are a fuzzy borderland because again, in this world, nation states haven't fully formed yet. Like, Wingbardi technically should be like all of this, you know, if it was, you know, if it was what we'd consider a modern nation state. Aquilea should probably be something like all of this, you know, and if the Empire united all of its, you know, all of its people, it would be this, basically. So yeah, that's again another nice detail that I find very interesting with the world building. World building, very, very much 10 out of 10 for this. There's also this, and again, like a lot of these don't have a focus tree, but some of them do, and they have their very unique, interesting situations that, you know, they're dealing with. And of course, over here they've got Hermann Meyer. You probably know the joke if you've read that, you know, quote in the loading screen of Hearts of Iron. This guy is Hermann Goering. Basically, these are settlements from the Griffonian, you know, empire in these islands. And you've got your own, basically, Goering, who is a mad aviator trying to basically do his own thing, and I guess if you want to play it, I'm not gonna spoil it. Now, to deal with the Empire area, I'm gonna start from the northwest because there's what is my favorite country, which is Scandinavia up here, which is this basically this like far northern port settlement beyond a gigantic mountain range. That is... It's a cross between the Maoists in the 1930s in terms of its strategic situation, and basically, well, unfortunately, you do not get to see at the beginning their focus tree, and, you know, the Soviet Union in the 1920s, and that they can basically unite all of Grifonia if you go far enough down their focus tree. Their focus tree is really, really amazing. And their mechanics are also really, really amazing because they have basically kind of a Soviet... shit, you do not see it at the beginning because you've got the like, crisis Congress thing. But, like, basically you have this Soviet Congress kind of deal where the delegates of two different factions, the Communalists and the Internationalists, are sort of, you know, debating what should be the priority. The Communalists are cringe and they want to just kind of stay around and, like, I don't know, I guess, like, die of frost or whatever. And the Internationalists want to liberate all of Grifonia for the revolution or whatever. And the reason I say that they're kind of like the Maoists is that they were collaborating with the Griffonian Republic, or I suppose the Republicans, because... yeah, in the revolution that was attempting to overthrow the Griffonian Empire. Now, the Griffonian Empire survived this revolution and kicked the Republicans out to the far north, the far northwest in Cloudberry, over here, to the remote and wild wastelands. And in the remote and wild wastelands, both the socialists and the, again, the, you know, mainstream Republicans had their own internal struggle, and the communists were evicted from the Republic into Skynavia, which kind of reminds me again of the whole business with nationalist China. You know, there was first the United Front, and then the communists got kicked out, and now the communists are in this basically remote area, just trying to survive and hide after a long march, retreating away from their centers of previous influence, which is why they remind me of the Maoists. And the Griffonian Republic itself, again, the nationalist China parallels are pretty heavy, because they've got the National Republican Party, which is obviously very close in name already to the KMT, the Kuomintang, which has a right wing, a left wing, and a center wing. And you have basically warlordism, banditry, and a kind of military rule that's going on. The president is Alexander Kemersky, which the name might remind you of Kerensky, of course, Alexander Kerensky, but actually he's more of a Chiang Kai-shek, which is the reason why, again, I'm making the nationalist China parallels. And, yeah, the Griffonian Republic is kind of a nationalist China, except the Qing are still around. You know, they haven't completely taken down the empire yet. The empire is still to be destroyed, so they have to deal with their own internal warlord issues. And once they're done with that, they can either have a left, I almost want to say KMT, but a left NRP, a center NRP, or a right NRP. And then that leads down into their political consolidation and them attempting to return and hoist the tricolor over Griffonheim. Or actually, it's not the tricolor. That's unfortunate. Then host the Republican flag over Griffonheim. And again, both of these Republican exile countries are, in my opinion, really, really interesting because you're starting off in a incredibly weak position. Skynavia, my favorite, really difficult, really rewarding if, you know, things get done right and, like, really wholesome. Just in general, it's wholesome 100 Big Chungus, Sablon, you know, kind of stuff. Yeah, wholesome 100 Big Chungus. And you're fighting against the most industrialized and powerful entity, potentially, in the entire continent. So it is really, really difficult and really satisfying if you get it done and you conquer Griffonheim for the workers or the Republic, depending on whether or not you're playing Skynavia or the Griffonian Republic. Now, the Griffonian Empire itself is not particularly interesting. Like, the tag, the Griffonian Empire tag, is not particularly interesting. You have two paths. One of them is the fun path, which is the left one. Now, the Council of Free, most of the times it's going to go to a sort of religious government of Archon Eros the 7th. But there's a fun path. There's a really fun path on this left-hand side that's hidden, where basically one of these free guys can declare himself something called the Lord Protector, and basically he does an Oliver Cromwell. Like, he kills a bunch of people. He kills the Emperor, who is not going to be Grover the 5th anymore. It's going to be Grover the 6th, because Grover the 5th is about to die. And Grover the 6th is a, like, 6-year-old baby. So, like, this guy comes into power, kills the 6-year-old baby king, and basically tries to kill everyone. I just spoiled one of the greatest paths in the mod, but whatever. Or the Old Guard, which is under Duchess Gabriella Eagleclaw, who is the leader at the beginning of the Strawberry Duchy, which is the boring and cringe path. And again, you're just reuniting. Basically, it's Imperial Germany. It's the Second Reich, essentially. Now, there are a lot of tags over here, as you can see. Some of them are kind of sort of secondary, like up here, the Sunstriker clan or whatever. Like, yo, what the fuck? The Call of the Old One? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, I guess they can do a death cult. Oops. Okay. There's the dogs, who are, you know, but basically they can either stand with one guy, stand with the other guy, or be Spartacist. They've got the Spartacus League, which is obviously supposed to be the Spartacus League, the German communists of 1919. That's the dogs. There's also, for example, the Barony of Angriver down here, which is a kind of bandit-ridden, like, forest borderland. Who can have... they don't have the focus tree visible at the beginning, but basically, yeah, this Baron Lear the Vicious can do his own stuff, which is kind of interesting. There is the Catherine Principality under a Mad Duchess, or Mad Princess, I suppose. And most of these secondary tags, now there's also more interesting ones, like the Yale Rectorate, and in my opinion also Greifenmarschen. Most of these tags have, again, different paths, and they can have different alignments with each other. So basically, if a Republican coup happens in one of the duchies, they can try to go ahead and try to take over Griffonheim and ally with the other counties and baronies and, you know, duchies that have also turned Republican, so that they can together deal with the center, which is much more powerful. The reason that I said that the Yale Rectorate is, in my opinion, the most interesting is that they're basically a university state kind of business, and they can either be boring They can be the Red Guards. They can be communists, and they're basically the Red Guards, like from the Cultural Revolution. You know, ultra radical students. Or they can be funny. And they even got a, like, SS occult science path with the delve deeper, the science of life, which is a really cool path, but whatever. So yeah, whoever comes out on top of the struggle for the Griffonian Empire basically takes over Griffonheim, reforms the Empire, and then, you know, takes everything, and then oftentimes a new focus tree loads and they get to take over everyone else, basically. And also, again, the reason why I said Griffon Martian is really interesting is that it's kind of like a peasant republic. Obviously, you know, Diff Martian, if you know HOI4. The political trees are not showing yet, and they basically have elections every, like, 3 months. So every 3 months they can change the government, and their communist path in particular is, like, insane. So I really, really recommend you to try it. Now, on the eastern flank, the Empire has, again, as I said, a pony civilization. With also some dogs up here in the Diamond Mountain. And a weird thing in Deponia, and a weird thing in Lake City. To basically deal with the disgusting ponies, they have a kind of Teutonic order, which is longsword. However, there is also the Ordenstadt Hellquill, which has pony minorities. And let's just say that you can get rid of them. Yeah. Replace pony minorities with beasts of labor. Pony test subjects, you know. You literally have the Nazis. So yeah, this country has the Nazis. With, like, there's 2 paths over here with the Springtime and Hellquill and the Last Year Night, but, like, and you can be Lithuania, I suppose. Nobody plays these 2. They all play the Nazis, obviously. And yeah, you can either be Nazi or, like, semi-Nazi. It's yeah, okay. You just have the Nazis, and, you know, it's the Wehrmacht, the Luftwaffe. You know, yeah, amazing, isn't it? Anyway, the last really major area we have left is the teal blob that you see over here, which is the River Federation, the Treaty of Coldstream. Or, sorry, actually, the River Coalition right now. Now, the River Coalition can become the River Federation. So basically, this area is the EU, essentially. You have a gigantic tree where you get to compete with the other members of the Coldstream Treaty and the River Coalition to see who can essentially be the dominant force in a potential unification. And then you proclaim the River Federation, and you become incredibly powerful. The River Federation is essentially meant to be, in terms of, like, meta, it's meant to be the endgame boss along with the Griffonian Empire of Eastern Griffonia. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and look too deeply into the different tags because I'm not as familiar with them as I am with the Griffonian ones. I have never played in the river region. But basically, to be very, very, very quick, Deponia is not interesting. Lake City is Croatia, and they've even got their own Hitler. But they've also got a weird, like, kind of Japanese theme for some insane reason. And at the end, of course, they can try to conquer the Griffonian Empire because of fucking course. Now, Lake City are a bunch of cunts. The Diamond Mountain just kind of want to be, you know, doing their own thing in their little mountain. In the Hall of the Mountain King. Now, the Bakaran Republic, I have never played them, and I don't know what they're up to. So, yeah. Nimbusia is Sparta, or Greece, I suppose. As you can see, they've got their Spartan aesthetic over here. And, yeah. If you want to play Greece, I guess, there's that. The River Republic is Serbia. They've got their Rijeka, you know, their river city. And they're really like the main heart. As you can see, they're both in the center geographically, and, you know, they've got river in their name. They're the heart of the river coalition, really. Mainly, what the fuck, the Phoenix program? Damn. Damn, they're really cool. They've also got a really big, like a really, really big communist tree. But yeah, basically, they're doing their own thing. They're just a regular thing. The Kingdom of Wittenland and Poniadian. Now, Poniadian or whatever is obviously Ireland. As you can see, they've got the Taoiseach as the leader. You know, they're Ireland, but with mountains and not an island. I suppose. I don't know. They're not particularly interesting, but the Kingdom of Wittenland is pretty interesting because they're basically also a magical-focused medieval realm kind of thing. I don't remember if this has been removed or not, but they used to even have even have a mechanic where, like, their ruler was, like, chosen by a duel or something like that, but I'm not 100% sure that this is still, you know, in the game. So yeah, as you can see, you have a lot of different potential options if you want to play in the river region. If I were to play, I would probably play as the River Republic, or perhaps Lake City for like that true, you know, EU experience. But, you know, there's a lot of stuff, and again, the River Federation, really, really cool. Now, if you go to like the far south, you have a bunch of semi-minor entities. Now, there is this region over here, which is basically Priwen, or, you know, over here you have this tag known as the Griffon Liberation Army, the GLA, who are these kind of Maoist insurgents against the, against the Kingdom of Brodfeld, which is Romania. So they're trying to create this republic called Priwen, which also ideally is supposed to encompass the Principality of Lushi, the Griffian host, which is Ukraine, and the free towns of Griffus, or whatever the fuck. Now, as I've already said, if you want to play Ukraine, you know, with the hetman and all that, or Khrushchev, there's literally Khrushchev with the young socialist coup. You can play the Griffian host. if you want to reunite it under communism and be epic, you've got the Griffon Liberation Army. And the Griffon Liberation Army is also pretty epic because you can proclaim like the Griffon Union and you can reunite like central Grifonia under communism or whatever. Now, the Kingdom of Broadfeld itself is kind of shit. Like, it's a brutal medieval monarchy, basically. And again, as I said, it's Romania. Now, you can do your reformism if you win. Or what everyone does, really, is the killing everyone. Now, there is even a third path, but I'm not sure if I should spoil it. There is a third path that is incredibly hilarious. As Broadfeld, which is basically I don't know how I've gone this long without mentioning it, but like democracy in this mod is called Harmony. There is a harmonist path that is actually like you try to make the New World Order, like, you know, from the conspiracy theory. Yeah, basically there is that. And I'm not gonna spoil it down further. It's incredibly difficult to get. You know, you get to like to do it. You need to basically choose the right answers to a bunch of cryptic events that are basically puzzles. You get to do cryptography. It's a bunch of weird shit. And the last country that I suppose is in any way like interesting or whatever is Asterion, which is kind of a Greece. And they're basically all about trying to survive on their island and trying to recover a few territories that they feel they have lost everywhere else. So yeah, if after this you don't want to play Equestria at War, you're dumb. I'm sorry. Like, this is the best mod, period. So yeah, I'm gonna end the spotlight here. Very, very soon, 1.9 update is gonna come out. Go play it. It is the best. And yeah, I mean, that's it. Want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.